I refused to see other options for a girl and pressed charges for what she did to my son's car. My 16-year-old son, Jake, had been saving up for 2 years to buy his first car. He worked at this local pizza place every weekend, did yard work for neighbors, and even sold his old gaming console to scrape together enough money. Finally bought this 2015 Honda Civic with 120,000 NYARs on it. Nothing fancy, but it was his and he was so proud of it. The car meant everything to Jake. He'd wake up early just to wash it before school, spent his lunch money on air fresheners, and even bought those fuzzy dice things to hang from the mirror. Kid was obsessed in the best way possible. Then there's this girl at his school named Haley. She'd been asking Jake to prom for weeks, and he kept turning her down nicely because he was already planning to ask someone else. Jake's not the type to be mean about it, but this girl just wouldn't take no for an answer. One Tuesday morning, Jake came running into the house, absolutely losing it. His car was completely destroyed in our driveway. Someone had taken a baseball bat to every single window, dented the hood beyond repair, slashed all 4 tires, and spray-painted horrible things all over it. The words were so nasty I can't even repeat them here. My heart broke watching Jake just stand there staring at his destroyed car. 2 years of hard work gone in one night. The kid started crying right there in the driveway, and I hadn't seen him cry since he was maybe 10 years old. We called the cops immediately, and they came out to take pictures and file a report. Officer Rodriguez was really nice about it and told us to check if any neighbors had security cameras. Our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Kim, has one of those doorbell cameras that points toward the street. When we looked at the footage, there was Haley, clear as day at 2 a.m. with a baseball bat going to town on Jake's car. She wasn't even trying to hide her face. The whole thing was on camera for about 15 minutes. She really took her time destroying everything. Jake was devastated, but also scared because he had to see this girl every day at school. I was furious. This wasn't just some teenage prank. This was thousands of dollars in damage to something my son worked so hard for. The next day, Haley's mom called me up crying and begging me not to press charges. She kept saying Haley was just heartbroken and made a mistake, that her daughter was a good kid who just got emotional over the rejection. She offered to pay for the damages if I would just drop it. But here's the thing, the car was totaled. Insurance wouldn't cover vandalism because we only had basic coverage since Jake was a new driver. The repair estimate came back at almost $8,000, which was more than Jake paid for the car in the first place. Haley's mom then started getting angry when I told her we were definitely pressing charges. She said I was ruining her daughter's future over a stupid car, that colleges wouldn't accept Haley with a criminal record. She even had the nerve to say that Jake probably led her daughter on, and this was partly his fault. I told her that her daughter committed a felony and destroyed my son's property because she couldn't handle being told no. That's not normal teenage behavior. That's criminal behavior. If Haley was old enough to swing a baseball bat, she was old enough to face the consequences. The school tried to get involved too. The principal called me asking if we could work something out privately because this was affecting both students' education. I said absolutely not. My son was the victim here and shouldn't have to worry about walking on eggshells around his attacker. Haley ended up getting charged with criminal mischief and vandalism. Since the damage was over $5,000, it was a felony. Her parents hired some expensive lawyer who kept trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't having it. During the court proceedings, Haley's lawyer tried to paint Jake as some kind of player who was leading multiple girls on. They brought up text messages where Jake was being friendly to Haley, trying to make it seem like he was giving her mixed signals, but the texts literally just showed Jake being polite when she'd say hi at school. The whole thing was ridiculous. Jake never promised this girl anything, never led her on, and definitely never gave her permission to destroy his property. He was just a nice kid who didn't want to hurt someone's feelings by being rude about rejecting them. In the end, Haley pleaded guilty to avoid jail time. She got 2 years probation, had to pay full restitution for the car, and had to do 200 hours of community service. Her parents also had to pay our legal fees since we hired our own lawyer to make sure Jake's rights were protected. Refused to see other options for a girl and pressed charges for what she did to my son's car. My 16-year-old son, Jake, worked for 2 years to buy his first car. Every weekend at the pizza shop, every lawn he mowed, every bit of birthday money, he saved it all. When he finally bought a 2015 Honda Civic, he was so proud. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. He'd wash it before school, buy little things to decorate it, air fresheners, fuzzy dice, custom floor mats. You could see how much it meant to him. Then there was Haley. a girl from school who'd been asking Jake to prom for weeks. He kept saying no, kindly, because he was planning to ask someone else. But she didn't take it well. One morning, Jake came running into the house, pale and shaking. "Dad, my car, someone destroyed my car." We ran outside. Every window shattered. Hood dented. Tires slashed. Spray paint all over it, words I won't even repeat. It looked like a war zone. My son just stood there, staring. Then he broke down. I hadn't seen him cry since he was a little kid. That car was his pride, his independence, and someone had ripped it apart. We called the police. Officer Rodriguez came out, took photos, and told us to check with the neighbors for camera footage. Mrs. Kim next door had a doorbell cam facing the street, and there she was, Haley. At 2 a.m., swinging a baseball bat at my son's car like she was in a rage-fueled trance. 15 minutes of destruction, no mask, no hesitation. When Jake saw the footage, he just sat on the couch with his head in his hands. "Why would she do this?" he kept saying. The next day, Haley's mom called me, crying, said her daughter had made a mistake, and was just heartbroken. She offered to pay for the damages if I'd promised not to press charges, but the car was totaled. The repair estimate was nearly $8,000, more than Jake had paid. Our insurance didn't cover vandalism. It was everything my son had worked for, gone. When I said we were pressing charges, her tone changed instantly. She accused Jake of leading Haley on, of messing with her emotions. Said I was ruining her daughter's life over a stupid car. I told her flat out, "Your daughter didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. And now she'll face the consequences." Even the school tried to intervene. The principal called, asking if we could handle this privately, so it wouldn't affect both students' education. Absolutely not. Jake was the victim. He wasn't going to be forced to coexist with the girl who destroyed his property. Haley was charged with criminal mischief and vandalism. Because the damage was over $5,000, it was a felony. Her parents hired an expensive lawyer who tried to claim Jake led her on. They even showed texts of Jake being nice to her, as if basic kindness justified what she did. In the end, Haley pled guilty to avoid jail time. She got 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and had to pay full restitution, including our legal fees. Jake's working again, saving up for another car. He says next time, he'll get full coverage insurance and stay far, far away from girls like Haley. And me? I don't regret pressing charges for a second, because some lessons can't be taught with mercy. Story 2. My wife wanted to divorce me because she inherited her dad's $5 million and she didn't need me anymore. I said, "Okay, let's divorce." I sold the house and moved out. Later, she called me in panic. When Chapter 1, the $5 million shift, I still remember the way she looked at me that morning. Cold, detached, like a stranger wearing my wife's face. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed. I braced myself. I'd seen the tension growing for weeks, but I never imagined what was about to come out of her mouth. "I want a divorce," she said flatly. "My dad left me $5 million. I don't need this anymore." "I don't need you." There was no anger, no tears, just cruel indifference. We had been married for 11 years. I supported her through grad school, helped her launch her bakery business, and even sold my motorcycle to cover her early inventory costs. And now that she was rich, I was just disposable. I stayed silent. She waited for me to beg, to shout, to break down, but I didn't. Instead, I calmly said, "Okay, let's divorce." Her smile wavered. That wasn't the reaction she expected, but I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. Within a week, I sold the house. It had been in my name long before our marriage, a fact she had forgotten in her arrogant rush toward freedom. I handed her a check for her share of the furniture, packed my things, and moved into a small rented loft. And that should have been the end. But it was just the beginning, because 3 weeks later I got a call. It was her sobbing, screaming, "Please, you have to help me." I didn't know he took everything. I stayed silent for a moment, then with a calm voice I said, "You should probably call your new life for help." "I'm no longer your husband, remember?" She gasped. "Please just listen." But I already knew what she was about to say, and I wasn't surprised because I knew what her father had really left behind. And I had seen the other will. Chapter 2, The Hidden Truth in the Will. After I hung up on her desperate call, I poured myself a whiskey and leaned back in the creaky armchair of my new place. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine. And it was peaceful, Her voice, shaking and desperate, kept replaying in my head, and I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered how she laughed when the real estate agent handed me the house sale contract and said, "You don't mind starting over, do you? I mean, you'll land on your feet." Eventually, she never once asked how I was doing or if I had somewhere to go. Just smiled, counted her money, and moved on with her new designer-clad life. What she didn't know was that I had already spoken to her father's estate attorney weeks ago. Not by accident, but because I had a hunch. You see, her father didn't trust her. He once pulled me aside after a Thanksgiving dinner, sipping on bourbon, and muttered, "You're the only thing keeping her grounded. If she ever ditches you, you watch what happens next." Back then, I thought it was just an old man rambling. But it turns out he meant every word. The will that my wife had been celebrating. The $5 million she thought she inherited, it had a condition, a clause buried deep in the second addendum. Should my daughter separate from her husband within 90 days of my passing, allocated inheritance will be redirected to local charities and veterans programs. She filed for divorce 17 days after the funeral. And once the lawyers caught up with the paperwork, the $5 million vanished from her account like smoke in the wind. All of it frozen, transferred, gone. She had already bought a luxury car, signed a lease on a penthouse suite, given notice to her bakery staff, and replaced them with influencers and marketing consultants. Now she had nothing, and she knew it. But what really stung her, what really broke her, was that I didn't warn her, because I could have. I could have told her the truth about the will the moment she filed the divorce. But I didn't because I wanted her to experience the same free fall I did, the same crushing realization that life isn't about what you deserve. It's about how you treat the people who stand by you when you have nothing. And now she was the one who had nothing and no one was standing by her, not even me. Chapter 3, The Desperate Call and the Final Trap. 3 days after her account got locked and the inheritance vanished, she called again. This time, no arrogance, no demands, just silence on the line. And then, Kevin, I made a mistake. There it was. I let the silence hang just a second longer before replying. Which one? Leaving me? Filing for divorce? Or assuming you'd keep the money? She sniffled. I didn't know. My father never said anything about a clause. Your father did. You just didn't listen. I could hear her breathing, uneven. She was sitting somewhere alone, probably in that overpriced penthouse, the rent of which was due in 5 days. Then she dropped the real bombshell. Can we talk in person? I almost laughed, but I said, sure, my lawyer will be there too. She paused. Kevin, please. No lawyers, just you and me like it used to be. That's when I knew she wasn't just desperate. She was plotting something, and that meant I needed to set the final part of my plan into motion. We met at the old cafe down the street from our previous home, the place where we used to share Sunday breakfasts and dream of owning a cabin in the woods someday. She looked different. Not because of her designer clothes or her forced smile, but because of the fear in her eyes. It was the first time I had seen her look truly uncertain. She reached for my hand across the table. Kevin, I didn't leave you because I didn't love you. I thought I could have more. I made a terrible miscalculation. That word miscalculation said everything. She didn't regret hurting me. She regretted betting on the wrong man. And now that she'd lost the jackpot, she wanted to come crawling back to the safe bet. Me. I smiled gently. You're right. You did make a miscalculation. She leaned forward, eyes hopeful. So maybe we can fix this. That's when I pulled out a small black folder and slid it across the table. Already fixed, I said. She opened it slowly. Inside finalized divorce papers, signed, notarized, and filed with the court 2 days ago. Her face palled. You filed without telling me. I didn't need your signature, I replied calmly. You filed first. I just finished it. Then I stood up and added with a smile, by Friday, you'll be free. Just like you wanted. But what she didn't know was that the real twist was coming Monday morning. Because I discovered one last dirty secret, and I wasn't done yet. Chapter 4. The Hidden Account and Her Crumbling Castle. After I walked out of the cafe, leaving her stunned with the finalized divorce papers, I didn't head straight home. I went to a private investigator's office. The same man who had quietly helped me months ago when I first sensed something was off. Back then, it wasn't about the money. It was about the feeling in my gut. The late-night calls she stepped out to take. The spa weekends that never showed on our joint card. The receipts from hotels and places she was never supposed to be. At first, I thought it was just infidelity, but now I knew it was greed-fueled betrayal. And thanks to the investigator, I had the evidence. 2 weeks earlier, he had uncovered something shocking. An offshore bank account opened under my name. I had never authorized it, never touched it, yet it showed 3 separate $500,000 deposits over the course of a year. Guess whose fingerprints were all over the transfers? Yep, hers. She had been slowly transferring inheritance funds to this dummy account, probably planning to claim I had stolen it when the divorce got messy. Her plan was brilliant, if I hadn't seen it coming. But now it was evidence, and it was going to blow up in her face. Her father had left her not just an inheritance. He left her a seat on the board of his company, a company that had very strict rules about public scandals, fraud, and misappropriation. So, Monday morning at exactly 9:01 a.m., a sealed envelope landed on the desk of the company's CEO and legal team. Inside, bank documents, transaction logs, voice recordings thanks to my PI, and a statement from me clearly outlining the entire fraudulent setup. By 10:15 a.m., she was escorted out of the building. By noon, her corporate accounts were frozen, and by 2 p.m., I got the final text I had been waiting for. "Why are you doing this to me?" To which I replied, "You wanted to be free. Now you're free from everything." But the final blow was still coming. See, it wasn't just about money. It was about truth. And I wasn't the only person she had wronged. She had also stolen funds from the joint charity we co-founded in her father's name, something that was going to explode very publicly. But that, my friend, is what Chapter 5 is all about. Chapter 5, the fall of her fake empire. 3 days after she was escorted out of her father's company, the first article hit the local business paper, Scandal at Horizon Group. Founders' daughter accused of embezzlement and fraud. It wasn't just a headline. It was a wrecking ball because as the story unfolded, people started talking. Former coworkers, employees, even family friends. Turns out my ex-wife wasn't just siphoning money into secret accounts. She had been laundering charitable donations from the foundation we had set up in her late father's name, the same foundation that fed hundreds of underprivileged children and sponsored cancer treatment for women in rural areas. She used those funds to buy herself luxury handbags, fund secret trips with her affair partner, and get this, invest in his shady crypto startup. And I had receipts for all of it. I never wanted to go public, but the board of the charity demanded an explanation. So I stood there in front of a small press crowd and said what I never thought I'd have to say. I want to apologize to all the donors and families who trusted us. I had no idea the woman I once loved could be capable of such betrayal, but justice will be served. Every stolen cent will be returned, and those responsible will face the consequences. I made sure to hold up a copy of the signed criminal complaint I had filed that morning with the Financial Crimes Unit. The fallout was immediate. Her new partner's crypto site went offline by nightfall. She was banned from the Horizon board indefinitely, and several donors filed separate lawsuits against her. The next day, she called me in a panic. Her voice cracked, the same voice that once said, "I do. Kevin, please. They're saying I could go to prison." This was all a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. "You can stop this." I paused, looked at the framed photo of our wedding I hadn't yet taken down, and said, "You're right. You weren't thinking clearly. But you made it clear I wasn't needed anymore. So now you're on your own." That was the last time I ever picked up her call. Within a week, the inheritance she had tried to hide was frozen. Her affair partner ghosted her, fleeing the country with what was left of their crypto fund. Her name was dragged across every major business outlet in the region, and her mother called me sobbing, saying, "I had no idea she could stoop this low." The final blow, the luxury penthouse she tried to keep in the divorce, was repossessed by the bank after she failed to keep up payments. And the moment it was emptied, I bought the same unit, renamed it Phoenix Loft, and donated it to the charity she tried to destroy. Epilogue: From Ashes to Armor. It took time, not to get over the betrayal, but to learn how to live without bitterness. That was the hardest part, because when someone you love turns into someone you don't even recognize, it tears something in you. But it also builds something new, something unbreakable. After the dust settled, I focused on the one thing that never betrayed me: the mission. The foundation, once a side project, became my life's work. I partnered with a team of real people, passionate, honest, hardworking. We renamed it the Phoenix Trust, dedicated to helping children and women recover from financial and emotional abuse. Within a year, we rebuilt 3 shelters, sponsored over 60 students, and helped dozens of betrayed spouses get back on their feet, all in the name of turning pain into purpose. She tried to sue me. She tried to clear her name online, but her reputation was already scorched. Because while she ran around trying to explain herself on podcasts and gossip panels, I stayed quiet and let truth speak for itself. Eventually, she moved to a smaller city where no one knew her name or cared, and her affair partner arrested in Dubai for fraud. Karma didn't even ask for permission. "Dad, are you glad it happened?" I looked at him, smiled gently, and said, "No, but I'm glad I survived it. And I'm proud that we didn't become like them." He nodded, held my hand, and whispered, "Mom chose money. But you chose me. I'll never forget that." The final lesson? This story wasn't about revenge alone. It was about reclaiming dignity, about not letting betrayal define you, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away without looking back. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone, it's thriving without them, and making sure the world knows exactly who they are and who you've become in spite of them. Was this revenge perfectly justified?